So,
how we always start is we go 3, 2, 1.
Sister
Hey.
Hey.
Welcome to
Sister
Code. Your booty. All right, we bring some testosterone up in here.
Yes.
Right.
We love that.
Code.
Yes.
Put the male to the sister. Code.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Here we go.
The
So
father.
here we are with our first guest.
Ever.
Am I your first?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
Wow.
That's history, right?
Yeah.
that is.
Okay.
We're making history.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right.
This is episode 9.
Episode 9.
We're almost at double digits.
Yeah,
About to be.
we're about to be. It's right there. We're
We're
like,
about to be preteens
Yeah.
in this world.
I was just going to say, like, we're out of that toddler phase. You know, we're getting kind of more comfortable with life in our journey.
It's good.
So welcome.
Glad to be here.
Special
Glad to
show.
be a part of the
The fold.
code.
The code.
Code.
Absolutely.
Since though I kind of created this sister code, I mean,
Pretty much.
Yeah.
So
Here we are.
we,
Started
Yeah.
back.
we here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome. Well, it is going to be, when you hear this, it'll be Father's Day.
Mm-hmm.
Or the day before Father's Day, yeah? I think, yeah.
No, Father's Day is the 15th, right?
No, I think it's,
It's
the
the
16th.
Is it 16th?
Yeah,
Because
it's the day
16th
before.
It's the Sunday. Okay,
Yep.
so
Yeah.
it'd be
So it'll come out right before. And so we're really talking about kind of part of what our show is about today is just embracing or leaning into your support system, whatever that may look like. And so sometimes it's a father, sometimes it's a friend, sometimes it's a mother, sometimes it's a aunt, you know. So that's just a little disclaimer before we start that today we kind of want you to be everyone's dad. And to those whose fathers are still with us or may not be, or maybe just haven't been present in your life, you have a dad for today. Is that okay with you?
It's okay with me.
Okay.
I would like to throw something in there that I need folks to really understand when it comes to fathers and being in their lives. A lot of people don't understand that you got to be careful. You got to be careful because you never know what a child is going to pick as their support system. And if you mess around and put the wrong people around, it's not just that mother. Even if that mother's there, you mess around and put the wrong people around them, then that support system ends up being something different than what you want it to be.
For sure.
So you got to be careful when you talk about that quote unquote support system and who that person ends up being. And it's a lot of it has to be who that child picks
Yeah.
as a support system.
Fair.
And you just got to be careful.
Absolutely. That's a
Oof.
added little
Tea.
piece there. Yeah.
Already.
Already. Off top. This episode is also about celebrating fathers as well. So definitely just a disclaimer of like the support system, but also shout out to dads that are just like crushing it out here and are there for you to lean into or have some support as well. So
That's awesome.
cool. Yeah.
Well, Dad, we know that you do listen to our podcast,
I do.
and so we always
This is so
start
sweet.
with 2 weeks in, where we kind of, because it's the middle of the month, we like to just check on how everybody's doing. Middle of the month, you might have had goals in the beginning of the month, you might not have.
Where you at with
Just
them?
how you doing?
Yeah.
That's a question to me.
Yeah.
2 weeks into the month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm doing pretty well. I'm pretty blessed. And so this up into these 2 weeks, it's been kind of hectic at the job. It's been kind of different. I'm pretty excited about 2 weeks in. We've had a couple of track meets that we're going with. Brielle is my other daughter by another father and mother, but you know.
Your support
but that's my
system. You're
niece.
her support system.
That's my niece,
too.
and she's been with us for I think 4 years now. And part of being a support system from her is supporting her in track. And these last few weeks, it's really been great to watch how she's developed. She did her PR this last week, and PR is a personal record in her last track meet. And it was doing doing a districts run, and she did her personal best in
Yes,
doing a district run.
right.
And as a support system to her, you just don't know how the emotions that come along watching her develop. And people say, well, you had your other three daughters. Yes, I've watched all of them develop in different ways. But these last 2 weeks, I've seen her develop, whether it be doing track, whether it be doing school. We're at the end of the school year,
Yeah.
and
We're gonna get into that.
she's doing extraordinary well. So these last 2 weeks has been really good for me as far as looking as from a father, two daughters, and last night, just got to throw this in. Last night, went and watched Grace play volleyball. And if you had seen Grace play volleyball a week and a half ago, whoa.
A change, a difference.
I expected to have
The
a
shift.
lot. I had to expect to be a big support system.
Sharing her
Baby,
on.
it's all right. It's
Shout out to
okay,
you,
baby.
Grace. Try new
worry.
things,
It's
girl.
the ball went behind you. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it, baby. It's okay.
Listen,
But
one thing about
instead,
Grace, she gonna try again.
but instead, she did a great job, and
Yeah.
she did a lot. Matter of fact, the team did a lot better than I expected. So these last 2 weeks have been pretty good. I really appreciate these 2 weeks. Yeah.
Nice. What about you, Keisha? How your 2 weeks of June been?
Wow. Okay, June. Well, you know how you anticipate kind of like, ooh, well, I don't know about you, but I'm very much like new month. It's a mini New Year's, and I just anticipated I'm going to jump into June with like 2 feet. And if you know me, like, I like those little corny sayings like jumping in, or it's summer, it's a new season. Ciao. I did jump in with 2 feet, but I kind of landed on my booty. And I think that's just a testament to like, you just don't know how every season's going to be, but just to kind of go with the flow. I feel like I've kind of dusted myself off in the second week of the month and started to really just, I don't know, some of the lessons I feel like God has been teaching me is to like not feel like I have to have everything planned out, and then also being okay with plans changing and being able to pivot, while also just like having both feet on the ground and just being present. You know what I mean? Just like enjoying what is now instead of like thinking I need to have some grandiose plan or know exactly where it's going and the direction that I'm taking necessarily. So I heard a really dope quote, and it's really simple, but it was talking about it's more about your direction than speed. And it was kind of talking about pace. You know what I mean? Like, don't be so worried about how fast you're going, but what are you doing along the way? What direction are you going? Do you know that direction? Are you affecting change in people on the way? Are you getting better? Are you getting rest? Are you, so the check-in for me is just like, okay, halfway through the month, are you good? How are you? And then also like, just enjoy it. It's also summer. That's the vibe of like being with your friends. Some of us are off. Very much like things are changing. We're outside more. It's lighter later. So I'm very like, the seasons always affect me. I've talked about that. And the last shift of like from winter to spring, where I was just like, ooh, like a bear coming out of the cave of like, okay, now I can be outside. I can stay up and like not want to hibernate. So that's kind of where I'm at, in a good place. Definitely more than where I started the month. And I feel like that's like a testament to like, okay, God, I got this. We're gonna do okay.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
How about you?
Well, you guys kind of hinted at where I'm at.
Yes.
So today was my last day of school.
Yay!
Ooh!
Claps.
And it's so interesting because I don't know, it happens every time where it's like go to the last second, and then it's like, wait, it's over.
Look
Like
up.
it becomes a little bit anticlimactic because it's like you're kind of pushing to the end. Teachers, educators, all alike typically are in this like end of school, like we're pushing to the end, and not because it's like terrible in the end, but it's just like everybody feels that a break is coming.
Yeah.
And it's like we're all kind of like, all right.
Yeah, like before
it's
vacation.
coming.
Yeah.
And also like let's close up any loose ends. Let's tie everything in a bow before we go. And it's when it's over, it's just kind of like, Now what?
Yeah.
And I kind of feel that, like, even in this moment where it's like, yeah, like, it's over, but, like, I'll be there on Monday when I won't be. Now, also, on the other side of that, there has been moments where I'm like, oh, yeah, like, thinking through what this summer is going to look like for me, and just preparing for the next school year. I have, like, a long list of things that, like, just to get set up and make sure that I'm, like, feeling ready for when fall comes. And then also we just put up some furniture outside and sitting
On the
outside
deck.
and
Yeah.
being one with nature and
Taking it
summer. I'm so excited about.
I wanted to ask you a couple questions. I know you gave your 2 weeks in, and of course, in your nature, they weren't really about you. So that's less than number one, humility. But how are you feeling going into Father's Day weekend? Like, do you feel any warm and fuzzies, or you just feel like it's another day?
Thinking about Father's Day, I don't think that much about it. I appreciate for Father's Day what people do. I've always been a person that don't buy much, don't spend much. Just show a love, and that's enough. And you don't have to overdo it. Don't overkill it. This whole, spend a whole day doing all this other stuff. Cook me a little meal. Give me a little something to eat. Give me a couple jokes. Play a couple games, and we're good. So my idea of Father's Day, this coming Father's Day, is knowing that all of my children will be in the house. I just found out my wife will be here also, and all we gotta do is hang out.
Good old time. It's gonna be great. I feel like when we all get together, it's always a good time.
Yeah.
Laughing, games. We are a game.
Oh my God.
Game family.
Oh my God.
Oh my gosh.
The
Every
different
event.
games.
We can come together
We
for
can't
after
play
church.
spades. We cannot
Okay.
just play spades. Why
We need
can't
some
we sit
spades,
down
partners,
and play
friend.
spades?
We can.
Slapping
But
back.
you see how aggressive it gets?
That's why
really
we
why
don't
we
play
don't play.
spades.
Exactly.
Saying.
It gets
Can't we
real.
get a spade
Smack it on the
game
table
going?
real. Very, very good. Awesome. Well, we're going to go into our sis picks. And this is where we kind of talk about picks that work for us or that we've chosen. And first of all, we want to talk about some of our favorite times when it comes to a support system. For us, we're going to say father-daughter relationship, some of our favorite times. You can kind of insert what you think, what you feel into that, your support system. And thinking about, I wanted to ask you, Jill, what are some of your favorite memories or times that you kind of had with dad over the years? It can be, and it can be now, it could be past.
There's so many to choose from.
Oh,
Ooh.
nice.
I will say something that stands out to me is our mom worked nights, and so evenings we were always with my dad wherever he was. We were moving and grooving, and my dad always has a busy schedule, and he always has places that he has to be and things that he's committed to, and and then we would
Sounds familiar.
definitely be along for the ride.
Yeah.
And so what I think about is oftentimes we would get home maybe a little bit later, but even still, every time we would get home, we wouldn't just like get out of the car right away. It would always be whether we had a conversation and it was was finishing up when we're home. I always remember just being in the car. You would back into the spot, so we would always the vision I have is looking at our neighbors' houses across the street. If it's Christmas time, they have their lights up. Just having it was always really deep conversations about life. And those moments I really cherish because there were times where I'm like, okay, I'm ready to go in, but those were few and far between because really and truly I just really valued that time. A lot of times it would be both of us or might be the three of us, but then sometimes it was just one-on-one.
Yeah.
And we'd be sitting in the front seat just talking about what it means to be.
Yeah.
And how to approach life and lessons that you've learned along the way, and just knowledge and wisdom that you wanted to impart on us. And it would always be, okay, well, this would be my last point.
After an hour and a half.
I know you're ready to go inside, but
it's cold out here. In the middle of the winter, no heat on.
But they were so special to me, and they're moments I won't ever forget. And they're moments that I feel like I have really just had time to just pull from you. And you pour into us, and I really appreciated those times.
All right, there goes.
Well, I just want to plug this because this is why Gel only likes to have deep conversations now. Only. It's either like
primarily,
like it's either that or nothing,
or we sit quiet,
right? Or we just don't say anything. That's fair.
What about you? When you think about moments with Dad, what do you think about?
It's funny you say that. I mean, it's a little bit like what you were saying, because I think growing up, I remember Dad just being like, we thought he was being super deep about something. We're like, dang, is it really that deep? Or just, I think you always wanted to make us think and also give us advice for something we didn't yet understand. You know, it's always like the forecasting that would happen in those situations. So we our little brains, especially being younger, we'd be like, wait, what? But you would explain for sure. And then I think it was like planting the seed. But what I'll also say in addition to that is that I feel like you always wore the hat that we needed at the time. And it was like you were listening to us in a lot of these moments where, for me, a lot of the moments were like after tough moments, like after tough games. Maybe I didn't do well, or I was down on myself, or plenty of times after practice and I was maybe got yelled at, or I was just, just not understanding where I was as a young girl. Hormones are ranging, and like I'm crying all the time, Dad. Like I don't get, and it just be like you would kind of transition or switch to the hat that needed to be, worn at that time. So a lot of times it was, especially like as a teenage girl, you're just like, you just don't know what's what. It was just like a listening hat, or very much like, oh, it's okay, baby girl. Like you're going to be okay. Or you would come in with that and then hit you with the like, but listen, like, let me tell you what's really going on. Like real tea, like real like advice that I could grab onto, and you would meet me specifically, and also with my sisters, with like what we needed to hear, because you knew us, because you listened to us, because you obviously raised us. So I think that that's really special, because I feel like sometimes and obviously I'm not a parent, so I don't know, but you just look back and like some parents kind of are just talking at their kids, or they're just saying a blanketed statement that maybe they heard or whatever it may be. But I think you making it so personalized, and you did do that by taking the time with us individually to hear us, to listen. You would then take the time to give specific advice that we would need and we could actually take and use. It wasn't just like Dr. Phil, like, well, your kids need this at 14. You were just like, well, you're 14 and you're going through this, but listen, and then give us the advice. And that's just like, that's so precious, because I don't, I think I look for that even in relationships now, where it's like a back and forth, a deep conversation, but also like we laugh and cry, and I think that's so special, because we're super deep now. Like here we are, getting super deep and
I think it's also taught us how to be flexible with how to be support systems for different people. Sure. And recognizing what the different people in our lives need, right. And the type of support, and not just giving, like you said, blanketed support, right. But really thinking, okay, I know this about this person. I know that they might need me just to quietly listen for this portion of time. And I'm paying attention to your body language, and I'm paying attention to if I feel like you're shutting down and I need to back up. Like, right. You're very thoughtful about paying attention to all those pieces.
Right.
And I think it's something that we definitely have brought into our relationships in life.
Yeah, all of them.
I listened to you ladies, and I thought, I think it was you, Angelica, one of you said that there's so many things that I could pull up as special times. And I would just say this, that I've had a good life. I've done a lot of things. But one of the things that I can truly say is I have lived my life through my daughters. And the special times is when I watch them and I see them as babies. I remember, I remember the story about Keisha. I don't know what age, maybe 3, maybe 2, probably 2. Up until 2 years old, Keisha didn't walk. She didn't crawl.
Goodness.
Everywhere Keisha went, she rolled.
Oh my goodness.
We would stand her up. And when she wanted to go somewhere, she'd plop down and roll. And I mean roll sideways, turn a little bit, roll the other way, roll the other way.
Ambitious.
And just to watch her come up a way to get to where she wanted to go.
Right.
She understood rolling, so she rolled. There's so many, from babies up until now, there's so many stories that I can't really tell them by saying, oh, I remember. But when it comes to me, and it's like, wow, the sports, the different events, oh my God, my wife loved to put them in fashion shows and put them in competitions, both of these especially, and to watch them go through that, even through the pain of them not wanting to be involved in that. So the special occasions of a father with these children, and then you got three, now 4 different personalities,
Yeah.
and different experiences. And so as a father going through that with them, it's so special. I will tell every man that has a child, you have to experience life with them, not at them. You gotta be with them and walk through with them individually. Because I tell you what, the things that I did with Keisha, Angelica was emotional child.
Sure was.
If you looked
Sure
at her
am.
side-eyed, she would break down. I mean,
It's true.
it was, now she was just as hard-headed, but at the same time, you couldn't treat her the same way you treated Keisha.
Right. 2 different
It
kids.
just wouldn't work.
Yeah.
And so as a father, you have to, so you talk about the special times that you think of. There's so many good. I can't really think of any bad. So the experiences I had with them, each
You had
one
some
of them.
fun ones.
Yeah.
Oh, a lot of fun,
Yeah.
of fun. So I can go on and on and on, but they got other questions that I got to deal with. So
Gotta deal with.
I'll just leave it at that. So
Oh my goodness.
my experiences with all of my children, and I had to put Brielle in there. I had to give her a shout out to Brielle also. All hers were older age experiences.
Yeah.
But all of them, it's just been so special, and it has made me into who I am. So what you guys hear about me as a father, it comes from the experiences. Later on, I'll tell you some other experiences. I got some other questions, but I'll tell you this other thing real quick. One more thing, as they say.
Right.
But I will tell you that my father died when I was about 6 or 7, so I never had a father. But one of the things my mother always did is she always had a father figure around me. And Pastor Hall was a major father figure. Uncle John, major father figure. I ended up having another father because she went too crazy about it. That was Uncle Al, because Uncle Al was wild. She went too crazy about him being my father
Fair.
figure.
Everybody got one of those uncles.
But thank God for Uncle Al. You know what I'm saying? Uncle Al was street. And
Yeah.
I love being with Uncle Al. I had even AG, which was my cousin. I always had father figures around, or supported people around me to help me develop into not just the one trick pony. You know, I saw how they did things, especially Pastor Hall. Pastor Hall was probably the most influential father figure to me. And if whatever these girls see of what I think a father is, I guarantee you most of it comes from Pastor Leonard Hall
Wow.
of Trinity Missionary Baptist Church, Dayton, Ohio. Up on the hill.
Shout out.
Where he made me cut the grass. It had heels like this. We had to cut the grass like
Sideways.
that. Sideways. That Pastor
That's where you
Hall.
learn your
Yes.
lessons.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And he would sit up there. He would sit up there with his pipe watching me.
Period. Watch you go back and forth.
And then when we got done, we got some other stuff to do.
We got some other stuff for you. We got some
Anyway.
other stuff for you.
Anyway.
Wow. I love hearing the
Wow.
stories.
Yeah.
It's like,
Well,
you know, sitting at the, you know, when they say you like, you're not the old folks yet, but you know when you
I'm
sit at the
close.
old folks' feet.
I'm
and
close
you
to the old
listen to
folks.
the stories.
Yeah.
I've always loved that since a
Yeah,
kid,
it's
like
good.
just listening and being able to like learn.
Yeah, for
You
sure.
know, it was dope. Pretty
Oh,
cool.
Dad.
Hoorah.
Pretty cool.
Hoorah.
Well, as you know, it is called Sister Code, and so every
Always got the
episode we kind of like break down a different code or rule or just something to live by. And so for this time, we decided that it was important to talk through the idea of leaning on your support system. Now, we're using this word support system. For us, you are one of the most impactful support systems that we have experienced and will ever experience. And it just so happens to be Father's Day.
Just what
The week of Father's Day. And like Keisha said earlier, that's not necessarily everybody's story, you know, but just the idea of, like you even said, not having a father for a majority of your life, but still having different people that you definitely supported or definitely supported you.
Yeah.
And so we want to talk a little bit more about what that looks like. You know, you kind of really broke it down for how it looks like for you. What about you, Keisha?
Well, I think for me being number one, I'm the first daughter.
First.
So
No.
shout out to the first kids. You know, we're
I
kind
didn't know
of
y'all.
like
I keep forgetting y'all was 4 years apart first.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I was around
Wait,
first.
what did you think?
I
We were
in my
close in
mind, I keep
age.
thinking two.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You
It's
treated
most.
us like we were like 2
Yeah,
years apart.
yeah.
Yeah.
But you know,
We weren't.
okay.
Okay.
4 is 4.
We weren't. 4 is 4. A little over 4.
I can't believe that you were with us that many years before another one came.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, they say I feel like those years go by pretty fast when
Yes.
it's just your first, and then
Yeah.
it's like, ooh, it's already been 4. I forgot what was the question?
Just what does support system look like for you?
I think initially support system to me is the first things that come to mind are like blood family, but also chosen family.
Mhm.
And the only reason why I say that is because I don't feel like everybody has support from who they are related to.
Right.
And so I feel like sometimes that's just like necessary to think of. And that's the first thing that comes to mind is like my friends and I was blessed to have family off rip. And that was so beautiful, like in dad and mom, and then sisters that loved me, cousins, a grandmother that like poured into us. We went to see her in the summers, and that was like game changer. We went to see her in a different city, game changer. Your hometown, you know, well, end up being your hometown.
Yep.
So being able to be like a little bit more cultured and then be able to see different lifestyles, different ways of living. I think that's what just made me feel really supported, but also like kept me grounded, you know, so that chosen family and regular family. And then specifically to you, Dad, I feel like early on you were like putting me on the game, and maybe it's because I was the first. It's like you weren't going to have me caught up out here. And I feel like that's kind of a game changer for me, because when I didn't even understand it, you were putting me on the game. Even when I was like, not what my friend said, you were like, ain't nobody talking about what your friend said. Ain't nobody talking about what her mama said to you. This is what it is. And you were giving me real life lessons that I couldn't buy anywhere. I couldn't get anywhere. And for me, being the first, yes, but also being in an area where people didn't really look like me a lot of the time, you always made me feel like I was beautiful, strong, I could become the best at anything I put my mind to. And so that in that sense nothing was in my way. Right? And
Right.
then you really put God in our lives. But that was really the ultimate like game changer, cuz then you know, as a kid you think everything's bigger than you, that people make you feel small, or as a black girl, or you're trying to figure it all out and people are making you feel different ways, maybe putting things on you early, and you don't understand stereotypes, you don't understand racism, you don't understand colorism. You're just like, and I came to you with all of that and you were like, okay, that's cool, that's life. You're gonna face that. You're gonna face people who don't love you, who don't embrace you, but you're loved here. So like, come on in and know that you have that, and you don't have to go and find it. You don't have to go and yeah, it was really, you were really big on like, don't let anybody fool you. Don't let anybody pull the wool over your eyes. This is who you are. This is who God called you to be. This is who I raised. You were quick to say that. Like, you're my daughter. If you have, not respect, but if you don't stand in anything else, know that I support you, I love you, and this is who God created you to be. And those were the game changers for me early. 8 years old, third grade, fifth grade. And I just feel like that was the foundation that I needed to become who I am today. And I'm still learning, obviously. You fall into what's going on in the world and what they tell you, but I feel like I always had something to come back to. And still to this day, I still enjoy our conversations. We still have deep ones where we're like, gosh, I went out to the world and they just said I was this, that, and the third. What do I say? What do you think? And you'd be like, Keisha, I've been told you. It's just so much more of like, I told you who you were when you were 3. Like, you're still that person and some, So to have that like confirmation in you all the time, it never changes, never wavered. You won't ever, even when you didn't agree, you would tell me you wouldn't agree and be like, okay, and then do what you will. But I'll still be here, you know. That was a lot, but I just feel like you instilled all of that in all of us, and really, you do it to anybody who comes around. You listen to them, you give them advice, and you show up as a father for them, even if you didn't actually, not you birth them.
I'm gonna
You
say
didn't
I
didn't. Not birth them, but even though you weren't their blood father, like
Right.
you show up like that in the world, and I feel like that's your heart.
That's my
So
heart.
that's what I think about a support system. Long story short.
I think something
Yeah.
that I hadn't really thought too much about prior to you speaking was just the idea that like you never allowed the world to raise us. Like I think part of you having those one-on-one times, really, really knowing and understanding us was a way for you to be keyed in so that we were coming to you when we needed support.
Right.
It wasn't just that you were there for support. It was like, hey, I'm here. Hey,
Just know.
hey, I'm noticing this about you.
Yeah.
Hey,
Mm-hmm.
and it wasn't like, hey, tell me everything that happened to you.
Absolutely not. Right.
But it was, hey, I'm here. I'm
Yeah.
noticing changes in you. I'm noticing that, you're having a bad day, and you won't even say it. You be like, come on, let's go take a ride.
Yeah. Let's go to my screen.
Yeah. And then in those safe spaces, we,
Yeah.
this is what's going on.
Right. Breakdown.
But even going back to the idea of not letting the world and other like influences be the mainstays and the supports that you knew you could be as our father. I even think about there was this in one elementary grade, this one particular class, I was getting in trouble, and I didn't get in trouble in school. Just because I was just really quiet, super, super shy,
Right.
and I just didn't get in trouble in school. And there was this one year that I just kept getting notes written home, or one time I got detention because we had this like conduct book, and every time you did anything that was outside of what the rules were, you had to write your name, and after a few times, like, you got detention. And I just remember being so like disappointed and so sad, and like coming to bring you the fact that I had to go to detention, and you looked at it and you were like, well, tell me what happened. Yeah. And I explained everything that happened, and he was like, okay. And I was like waiting for you to like really, pound down on getting detention, because detention is this thing that you're not supposed to get. And just the fact that you didn't allow what other people, decided we were to affect how you showed up for us. And I didn't get in trouble. Now, mind you, I don't mean never get in trouble. I don't mean,
you already had 6 detention slips come to you.
Specifically, this one detention, and when we talked it through, you were like, "Oh, I thought that was a misunderstanding." Like, it was okay. Like, whatever it was, I don't remember the specifics, but whatever it was, you had said, "Okay, well, it was okay that you did that."
Right.
And again, I don't remember exactly what had happened, but just knowing that it wasn't that you were like going to placate us, and it wasn't at all that we were about to just be out here, being disrespectful or any of that. Like, but it was like you weren't going to just,
take their word for it.
Take someone else's word for who we were.
Yeah.
And it really was empowering. And it allowed us to be like, okay, like, we can share with you the times that, we feel like we're in trouble, or, we don't know what to do. And you didn't make us feel bad for having those moments. Now, did we get in trouble for times that we needed to get in trouble for? Absolutely we did. And were those conversations
hard?
Absolutely they were. And those deep conversations were deep in a way that
deeper. You weren't trying to have.
Right. I'm trying to get out
I'm
the
in
car
trouble
now.
right now. Right.
Like, I'm over this conversation. But like, it just was very much so safe.
Yeah.
To be.
What do you remember about some of those moments where like we would get in trouble, or we would bring home things to you?
Well, you guys hit a couple good points on that particular question. You have to always remember who's talking to you, and so you have to pay attention. And you guys said something that I guess I learned pretty early, and it helped out, is to listen. Trust your children enough to listen to them. And if you listen to them without, going off the deep end, then at least you'll hear what either they know or they need to know. So I know Angelica coming home getting detention, that's not norm. I understand that. A little bit more norm for Keisha, but definitely not norm for Angelica. So when Angelica comes and that's the other thing about understanding punishment. Something like that, Angelica brings that to me. She's already walking in her punishment. She's carrying it with her. Period. And I have to recognize, Ellen has to recognize, we have to recognize that me getting on her about that is not helping her. It's really hurting her. It's putting her down. And so you got to recognize, do you need to punish to make them better, or does your punishment end up making them worse?
Ooh, do me. No.
Oh, that's cute. Now, Keisha, I think
what was my night? I wasn't doing nothing bad either. I was punishing myself walking to you.
Keisha did a lot bad.
I was walking with my head down.
But here's the deal, though.
To put the picture in perspective.
Let's not get too twisted now. None of my children were just wild out there.
We weren't.
They were not wilding out, as the thing would say. They were never that wilding out person. They were always the person, the child, the parent of their friends wanted them to be friends with. So let's put that in perspective.
Example.
So they were always great children. Now, that's because I'm training them early, but I'm just gonna say
You
they
were
were
scaring
all,
us
they were all,
from
they were,
putting our
You
hands
threw
on
that table when
flipping the table early, so I know how to scare them.
so they knew.
Period.
But I will say this, because Keisha brought up a very good point, is about the village. Now, my children were raised by the village, but you had to
Give us a metaphor. What? Break down the gate.
You had to when you go for a job, you had to do an interview.
Okay. Fair.
Everybody in the village wasn't allowed to be around my children.
Period. And that's how
Matter
it's
of
got
fact,
to
to be perfectly honest with you, very few people of the village was allowed to be around my children. They were interviewed. They were looked at. I looked at the person, what they stood for, what they thought, their reactions, what they did. You couldn't be wilding out and be a village. And even when Keisha talked about they would go home, especially Keisha, would go home every summer. The idea was because we lived in a place that was different from where I grew up at. Around people that were definitely different from where I grew up at. And I think they needed to get more of that culture. So even when I sent them home to be with my mother.
By home, that was Ohio.
Yeah.
When I sent them home, my mother had instructions. Things that not with my mama. Me and mama argued a lot of nights. Now, let's not get it twisted. She's still my mama.
She don't play.
So sooner or later, she respected me enough to adhere to most of the things. There's some things she wasn't gonna pay no attention to. She just did it. What you gonna do?
Yeah.
But overall, what I'm trying to get you to understand though is that I felt as a father, it was my responsibility to make sure that they got the ability have the doors open and then be able to choose what doors they want to go to. I did not want them to be where because you're black, you young, black, gifted, you only can go certain doors, you can only go certain ways, you're going to do certain things. I love when they had different types of relationship with different types of people, ethnic people. I love them going to see. I don't have a problem with them hanging out with a Muslim or a Catholic or anything else because I believe that the belief that we have, if it's real, it's going to bubble to the top. My job was to train them in the way that it should go. And if they're trained properly, then they'll bubble to the top. I never worried about my children being followers. I expected them to be able to lead if called upon. So I'm
preach
going
to
on
him then. I mean, is you giving TED Talk points or what?
I'm going on
Where
and
we
on.
at?
But the thing is that back to the village, and I'm saying this because I'm really saying it to those who have young babies, young children. Protect your children. Protect their environment. Protect how you speak. Used to be, didn't nobody cuss around my children. Very few people were able to drink around my children. If you got to smoke, you smoke outside. You don't smoke around my. Nowadays, that's where it is anyway. But there's certain things that I protected my children from. Not because it was so bad that you were doing it. It's just that I don't want their doors to be open young. I wanted to make sure that everything that went into them at a young age was to build them up so that they can make decisions later on. Did I drink? Yeah, I drank. Did I smoke? Yeah, I smoked. I can go down and list other things I did wrong. But when it came to the children, I didn't want to burden them with that early so that now they only got those choices. I wanted them, their eyes to be wide open, have all kinds of options. So I forgot how we got here.
But support system.
But I believe that. Thank you. That's what a support. That's what a father's job. Father's job is to make sure there is an adequate support system that your children can stand on, that they can grow on. That if you build that system right, when they're 30, 40, 50, they still are able to stand on that support system. And if they can stand on that support system,
sky's the limit.
They go anywhere.
Yeah.
They got a base.
Yeah.
So, Anyway,
Ooh,
That's such a
okay,
beautiful way to
good.
look at it, though, because I think that oftentimes when we think support system, we think people, you know? And I think that it can start as that, but I think it's more so like, it sounds like you're saying put the rocks, put the foundation,
Yeah.
so that when the people aren't there anymore,
Still
they're
have
still
something.
standing.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, very
Even
much
throwing
so.
our own
That's
sometimes.
what this is. And even if, like, and I will say this, I said I wasn't gonna say anything that maybe they get me to the tears, so y'all not gonna get them today, okay? So, but I said what? My job is to prepare them, not for while I'm here, but when I'm gone. Father's job, if we build that support system right, then the people that they pick become support systems for them. Their friends, if they pick the right friends, they become support system for them. Their mates that they pick, that they're around all the time, become support system for them. If you train them right, then they will always pull to them people who they will support, and as importantly, will be there for them to be supported.
Yeah. Can I ask you a question about that? Because we did talk about like back to like our chosen families and then folks who they just don't have that. So what would you say that maybe are some of the things to look for in a support system when you are kind of, feeling alone, or you're feeling like I didn't start off with, you said you didn't start off with that either. Maybe what are some of the things that you did to kind of build it on your own? Maybe you were building your own, putting your own blocks together. Or let's say you didn't have your mom, you didn't even have that. Like,
well, again,
where
I
would you
can't.
start?
Again, I didn't take the credit. That's what I'm saying. Pastor Hall.
Do you have
And
people?
I had folks.
Did your mom
for me.
put that?
Mom did that.
Yeah.
Mom made sure. Mom wouldn't let me hang out. I had to sneak out. I should tell you right now, she'd be surprised how much I snuck out.
Yeah.
Because mom wouldn't let me out there doing hardly nothing.
But what if you don't have that?
Well, but
Anyway.
that's the point. That's the major point.
Yeah.
As a parent, well, depending on what you're talking about. So if you're talking about your 17-year-old, 16-year-old, 15-year-old,
Yeah.
they have to find a person that can become, and usually it's a teacher, a preacher, someone they know. Find somebody that is already pretty strong, that you can
Trust, depend on.
trust,
Yeah.
depend on, believe in, going the way you think you ought to go. Clear yourself away from those who are draining you, because you're not ready for those yet. Down the road, you girls are ready now, because you got to support you. So now you become support system for other people.
Somebody else, yeah.
But if you're not settled in who you are, you need to find some people. You need to get people around. That's what we talk about, your friends and your mates and other. You need to find people, get people around you that can support you. Pull those people in. You don't be friends with everybody at that point.
Yeah.
You try to find people that can help you get to where you're going, and maybe you can help them, but more importantly, so they can help you get yourself together. So, and usually you want to pick somebody who's already there.
Where you want to be.
Both
or
of
at
y'all,
least, yeah.
I've got a friend of mine. They're best friends. They're just messed up as they are. So the question is, how either one of y'all gonna get out? Y'all both in quicksand. How y'all gonna get out?
Fair.
Y'all have nothing to grab.
Yeah.
You both of y'all are sinking, and y'all helping each other, and y'all praying with each other, holding each other's hand, but both of y'all sinking.
Yeah.
One of y'all need to find somebody else that's on solid ground,
Yeah.
so you can at least latch onto that, and then maybe
Reach back in.
you can
help
reach back and
somebody
help.
else, Yeah.
But if both of y'all sinking, you can't help nobody.
Right.
So a lot of people make that mistake of they befriend people like them, and that's the only friends they have. To get back to I don't know where we were. What was the question?
We
I
still
don't
a
know.
support system for real.
Or
Just
support-
listen
We're
yours.
defining. We're
Oh,
defining.
you know, no, but
Fine.
I did ask you, like, if you don't have one,
Right.
where
Right.
can you start?
And you
Yeah.
got to find somebody on solid ground.
Got it.
And so whether that is, someone who you work with that
Yeah.
is, further along than you,
Teacher.
whether you're in school and you have teachers or professors,
Yeah.
whether you have a faith base and you have, if you're
Somebody
in
in there.
church
Older.
and you have, ministers around,
Right.
or I think that's kind of what you're trying
Yeah.
to go for. Like, where are the people? Because I think that I
Right.
definitely see that, and especially now, because now people are a little bit different as it relates to, like, just talking to people.
Yeah.
But,
It's
changed.
but beware of the stereotype. Just because he's a pastor, just because he's a minister, just because he
Absolutely.
sings in the choir, just because.
Absolutely.
It's no different than anything else. They have to pass the test.
That interview you were talking about with
That
the
interview.
village.
Yeah.
They've
Even with
got
your
it.
kids,
They've got
yeah.
to. You got. Don't just accept it because they say it.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is that solid foundation, that getting that solid foundation, it's everybody gets it from different places, but you gotta find something that's solid. Is the bottom line. You cannot run behind people who are lost and expect yourself to be found. You
Word.
gotta find. You gotta look for, and don't. I'm not trying to preach, but I want to make people to see these things. Don't look on just surface. Homeboy got a pretty car, got a lot of money, seems like he got it going on, laughing and joking all the time, doing everything. Then all of a sudden, suicide. He had it going on. Had all the money you can think of, all the girls, the women, men, whatever, and everything. Laughed every time he walked into the room. He was laughing and joking. He was the jokester of the place. You look at him and you say, man, I want to be just like him. Because all you see is surface.
You don't know the deeper.
You don't know the
story.
deep. And that guy sitting over there, every time you look over there, it seems like he got some issues. He's going through some things. Once he gets on the other side, guess what?
You're gonna be fine.
He's going to be a solid rock. So that to me, those are the things that has allowed me to get to a solid place. And I'm praying, and going back to where I was going to first when it comes to the daughters, is you got to be searching and looking for foundation for yourself. And once you get that, I know right now that of my 4 daughters, all 4 of them have foundation.
That's it.
Wow.
Drop the mic.
Well, if you were wondering what those car conversations from our sis pits were like,
And how long they can be.
this is it.
Sneak peek. A
No
sneak
surface,
peek.
nothing.
No, not at all.
Now, we've talked a lot about some like really sweet,
things,
loving, wonderful things about our relationship, and this is like, that's the code, right?
That's the go.
But then we like to also talk a little bit about places that we missed the mark,
Yes.
in
challenges.
in the places that weren't as smooth sailing, you
Right.
know. And so this next segment,
I'm going to be short.
On this one.
because you all missed the mark.
On
is
this
that what it is? So this is our confessions.
Yeah.
And I think we kind of we briefly like talked about it earlier, but like I think our confessions in our hard part kind of was the same, with different vantage points, right? I think the transition, because of the way that we grew up, where everything was like, all right, Dad, now what? Like, because you had that like really open space, and we came to you and we asked for your ideas and your
yeah.
suggestions. I think the growing pains part for all of us was the transition from being a little girl to being an adult, and what that looks like. And so
The spicy part.
how was it spicy for you over there?
Well, again, I was first. I don't know why I feel like I need to lean into the mic. I don't need to. Um, I think that, um, and I know you're going to answer this anyway, but I definitely think I was the kid that like lived for a curveball anyway. And I definitely think some of them I like kind of threw at you, but also, um, I just think being a woman and being a black woman, like, there's just lots of lessons that just come at you fast. They come at you quick, and you just sometimes you don't see them coming. Some of them are unspoken. You're just wondering, like, where did this come from? Like, and when did I need to learn this, or am I behind? Am I have I had anybody told me this? Or, it's there's so many questions around your identity, who you are, how you're supposed to be, certain workspaces, all these firsts that I think you did prepare us for, but some of it is just lived experience. Like, some you can't block everything. I'm sure you wanted to a lot of times, but a lot of it was just you had to live it. You had to walk it, to understand it. And I think for me, growing up, I was pretty hard headed, and I can be kind of stubborn, even now. And so I learned some of those lessons the hard way, just like head on, which is kind of sometimes my personality. And so, I think I remember there being a lot of times where you're like, dang, I ain't really want you to learn it like that. Or like, like I told you, there wasn't a lot of I told you so, but it was always like, if you could block it, you would, or if you could say something. But again, like teenage years, I was going to probably do it anyway. Or you did set that foundation to where I was like, ooh, dodge that one. You know what I mean? And I think more times than not, I had moments of dodge that rather than like, dang, that came at me fast and I had no idea it was coming. You know what I mean? And so I think as an adult now, looking back, I can say, wow, like, I do think that you helped me miss a lot of just mayhem and like things that I could have just ran right into, because again, being the first, I didn't have an older sister or sibling to like talk to or to get advice from, because you don't want to always go to your parents, especially as a girl. You don't always want to go to your dad about certain things. You're like, that's weird, I don't want to talk to you about that, I don't feel comfortable with that. And I think you knew that. So there was a level of trust that we established really early. I do remember that. And you told me early, like, two things I don't like is a sneak and a liar. And so that was a thing that I was just etched in my memory. And so there was a lot of moments that you weren't there, but I think I just upheld that, as a woman, as a young girl, because I just, you don't want to let your person down, your support system down, after they poured so much into you, told you as many key tricks or things as they could. Once you get to face the lesson, I think a lot of times I made the decision that was best for me at the time, but most of the time I had you in my ear, in my head, giving me advice, or I called you and you would answer 3 a.m, 5 a.m, in a different state. I'm in college, you're here. Like, many times I would call you and you would let me know. I would come running wherever you are. And again, that's like a different type of support. That's a different layer that even, some of my friends didn't have, and they even had with you. Because you'd be like, oh, I picked them up too. You know what I mean? Or like, whoever's there, like, if their parents aren't there, I'd be there for them. That's the type of heart that you gave. And it was never like initial, you about to be in trouble. It was always like, the door's open, like you said, you can call on me. And I think that disarmed a lot of things in me over my whole life.
It should get you out of trouble first, and then I'm gonna get on you.
Yeah, that's true. That's true too. That's true too. And I think that again, not a lot of people have that. And I knew it was a blessing even in the midst of it, because some would be like, I can't call my parents. I can't, or I won't, or they're not there. So all those different things I saw from young, even up until now, I really understand it. But really, just to know that, like, well, y'all, I can call my dad now. I might get in trouble later, but I knew that you would come. And so I messed up a few times.
Just a couple.
I've done a few things. It
Not,
wasn't perfect.
not often. Wink,
Yeah, it wasn't perfect, but nothing is. Nothing in life
Right.
is. And so that was my journey. Now I feel like we have more of like an open back and forth. Sometimes our back and forth, because we're so alike, I'm realizing can be a little headstrong about certain things. Certain things you say, they might trigger me a little bit. Because
Yep.
Dad's very opinionated, as you can see
Yep,
through
pretty
the
much.
conversation. It's this and that. It's black and white to me.
Black and
I
white.
live my life in color.
No gray. Black and white.
You don't. What about you though? What about you? Because we have two different
I
stories,
think
but from
we
the same household, which is crazy.
And because we have different vantage points, whether it's because of birth order, because of responsibilities that come along with that, and just like our personalities and our temperaments.
Yes.
Because I think for me that looked different in that I kind of drew away. So like in the moments where things where you were trying to figure out, like you went to Dad and like, hey, I messed up.
Yeah, I need
For
help.
me it was like, no, I can't. And not because it wasn't safe, because it was. It was more so that like I had a hard time kind of getting to the point where, in my adulthood at least, being okay with feeling like, or like, navigating the idea of what disappointment is and what it doesn't have to be.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like
You were
that,
scared to disappoint,
yeah.
so you wouldn't say.
Right.
Like what was going on.
Right,
Got
right. And so I kind of drew in, or, I went to other support systems that you had trained me to find really great support systems. And so in not wanting to again,
Let you down.
disappoint
Yeah.
or let you down, I would kind of find my own way. And I think that would end up being that, I didn't get it all. And so I ended up still coming back to you like, okay,
Right.
so I tried it this way,
Yeah.
and now I have this big bill, or,
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that big
And the
bill.
bills, honey. Yeah.
or I don't know the next step. My friends only had this much information,
Right.
and they've only been through similar things
Much
that
as I
I've
have,
been through.
right.
And so I think for and I won't speak for how that felt for you, but I can imagine that being a little frustrating, because it's like, well, man, like
If you would have just
a few years ago you would have just come to me, and now I want you to be independent, I want you to feel empowered, and also I think that you also, like you said earlier, I think part of you the words you used were that you like lived through us, but I think even beyond that, because I think sometimes people can look at that as being like, living vicariously through your children. I don't think that that's what you meant. I think you more so meant like you lived to support us. And like that was such a dynamic part of who you are and how you show up, and we know that about you. And so in reflection, I'm like, oh wow, like I can see how that could have felt, that you could have felt hurt in times where I was just trying to figure it out on my own, kind of like the idea of empty nesting, and still wanting to make sure that you are feeling needed, and that the things that that you have to impart to us, that we get everything that you have for us,
Right.
But what's your vantage point of that?
Yeah.
Well, here to get again, you guys keep hitting these great points. Let me hit that one point you said about living vicariously. I do mean that. I do mean that part of that of my joy is living vicariously through and watching and being a part of what you guys are doing in your lives. So part of my life is defined by the things you guys are doing, and what that really means to me is you being able to go on trips to different places, I get probably more joy out of you going and experiencing that than I would necessarily get. Um, because big trips ain't no big deal with me because I've done them. I've done big trips. Seen big places. I've experienced a lot of great things already in my life. So a lot of parents are still running around trying to do that. With the military, I was able to travel. I was able to see all different types of lives. I was able to walk through Italy and ski the Scalps or the Alps and do all the things that people are now trying to spend money to go do. I've done that. So when you go and say, I'm going to the ski on the Alps, which you haven't done yet, but when you do, it's like, wow. And in my mind, I'm envisioning you and me and saying, hey, this is cool. So yes, I do live through the basketball, through the short volleyball, but then a lot of basketball. Grace her track and all that other stuff. Yes, I enjoy that. I live through that. That's part of what makes me who I am.
But not to cut you off.
Yeah.
But I think some parents like live through their kids
right.
because they want
Differently.
to like
Yep.
and
that,
like
that's their soul.
that right
Right.
right.
And for me, that's a
And you're
part.
like it makes you happy.
You guys, I will enjoy you out there doing your thing,
Yeah.
and you be guaranteed
You gonna
I'll
be
be doing mine.
Period.
It'll be that time in my life
Yeah.
where now, you know, I love Brielle. I love having Brielle with me. But after next year,
She'll be graduating.
I've already told folks, guys, you know, I got a motorcycle sitting out. I ain't rode in a year and a half almost.
Yeah.
Dirty, nasty motorcycle. I just tell how to treat that motorcycle. But people ask why you got rid of it. Oh, because I got plans for that motorcycle.
Period.
We gonna go ride.
We about to ride.
You know, we gonna go back to being able to have that free time. So empty nester, yeah. I get upset when I call and don't nobody answer my calls, but it's not because I really want to talk. It's because somebody said, "Is everything going? Yeah, you doing okay? You laughing?"
Check
It's
in.
just to hear that voice. If it's a smile at the other end, we can hang up right there. Yeah. We done.
Yeah, the idea is that like
Yeah, okay.
How is that transition from the childhood to the adulthood?
So Keisha, when she was young, especially when she got in high school, it was hard to watch but good to see. She was always trying to find out identity because she was in a all-white school and really trying to find herself and define herself. And that's kind of how she is now, where she's defining herself, not necessarily following behind anybody. And sometimes it's hard to sit and watch that. Angelica was, don't get me wrong, both are sweet, but Angelica was so, was it
Introvert.
Introvert.
Introverted, yeah.
Where, as she said, she didn't want to pose problems, or she didn't want, what's the word you use? Disappoint. And the way she wouldn't disappoint, she wouldn't tell. So she would smile, but in the back of her eyes, you can see all kinds of pain. But you couldn't get to it because you didn't know what's your problem. What's bothering you?
Yeah.
Something can be bothering her at school, and she's at the house, and I can't find out what that thing is. And it was very hard with her because I felt the pain, but she would never open up and let me see what that pain was from. She would go, it's like going up to the edge and not going over. And that was hard for me because I could see the potential. I could see where both of these could go, and in the same way for the basketball. The potential was there. And the hardest thing for me was trying to pull it out of each one of these in different ways. And so
Now look at us.
now
We got a podcast.
Now they got a podcast. Now I tell you what, I can walk in any room and say, Keisha, I want you to go up there and do that. She rolling my eyes, but guess what? She'll go do it. Same with Angelica.
Yeah.
There's no room I can put them in that I'm worried about them being able to go in, and the blessing is that everybody in that room is going to have a good time. Everybody in that room is going to appreciate them being there. And as a father sitting back and watching, that's like, wow. Same way with Grace. Grace is no different. All of them the same. And I had to throw in with Grace just because she's the other child. Is Grace is a little bit, especially the child. There was nothing she thinks she couldn't do.
Fair.
I was scared of that girl. Wasn't scared of nothing. It was like she would. She seemed to, for a long period of time, she never failed at anything, which made me nervous because everybody has to understand how to fail. And as a father, I'm looking for things to make sure she walks through that pattern, because until she walks through that pattern, she's not whole. These girls were able to find failure early in their lives, and they was able to overcome it.
Adjust.
But this Grace child, she could never find failure. One, because she would never look. If it came this way, she would look this way.
Right.
I mean, she never would face it.
Yeah.
And it was just hard as a father. God. And then her mother, oh my Lord,
Encourage
everything. Go do it. Go do it. Go do it. Wait a minute.
Like, yes.
You know?
I'm going.
So that's the three different personalities you have to learn, and that's going back to what we talked about earlier. Is as a father, you could either try to a round peg in a square hole, or you can take that round peg and find a round hole, or help them find that round hole where they fit. Find what they're made to be able to do. Guide them to that, and they'll never depart from it. They're very successful. These women are very successful. Are they multimillionaires?
We're getting there.
They're not multimillionaires
One
yet,
day.
but they're very, very successful.
Speaking.
And what does successful mean? Successful means that you're happy inside of you.
Happy. Yeah.
You're comfortable with who you are. That doesn't mean that you're where you think you ought to be, but you're comfortable with you. Can you sit in a room and say, I'm comfortable with me? And I'll end with what they asked me. The difference between the child and now the adults is I do have to sit back. I had to learn how to not tell them anymore. How not to expect them to just do what I say do. How to let them be grown. And it's hard to do that for a guy like me, because I expect people, as they said, as you start hearing them say, I expect them to understand. I know what I'm talking about. What's your problem? I know what I'm talking about. And as a child, they look and say, okay, Dad, yeah, you do know what you're talking about. At least I'm going to listen. As a grown up, hold on.
You said what?
It's not adding up. It's not adding up.
For me in my home, my house.
And I don't accept that at my job. At least at my job, they gotta listen.
Right.
So that's the difference. When do you, and that's what a parent has to figure out. When do they cross that threshold from child to adult? Because when they cross that threshold, there has to be a change in you as a parent. Has to be a change. You know, you got to move over. If you don't, all you're saying is you didn't do your job.
Or I don't trust you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't trust you because I didn't do my job.
Or you don't have what it takes.
Because I didn't do my
Can't
job.
do it by yourself.
Here as adults, this is
what
where
we're
the
dealing with.
this is where it comes
Bro.
weird, because he's gonna be black and white.
Black and white all day
And we
long.
gonna
And
be
we're
color.
like, but
Yeah,
you could have done your job and also the experiences of the
this
world.
way. Yeah.
stay within the lines. What they want to do, they want to make their own lines.
That's what you gotta do.
And then you know what? That
Here
is
we
what
are.
we do.
That's exactly what we do.
So
And that's
we
the
always-
confessions. And that is the confessions right there.
Right there. So we are going to talk about some things that can be triggering to some that have been abused physically. And so we want to make sure that we put that warning out there before you listen to the next part of the segment. We want to be sensitive to everyone and their story and their background. So if you have any issues with violence, physically, at all, we want to make sure that you know that going into the next part of the segment. So we usually give some tips to our listeners, our viewers. This one's going to be focused on your support system, but specifically for us, what do you think? Well, what are some tips for fathers on how to strengthen their relationships with their children?
I make it real simple.
Yeah.
And I said it earlier, and I'm going to re-emphasize it. You have to listen. You have to hear them before you preach to them. You really have to hear, because you'll be surprised what they're dealing with, especially now. And then I'm really gonna make it quick, but I just gotta say this. We forget that they are dealing with it earlier and stronger than we did when we grew up. The internet, the different environments, the different groups, it's coming to them faster than it came to us. And so for us to have, there's a lot of things I believe in as a young boy, grown man, that I didn't have to deal with. I'm gonna say this for real, okay.
When the for real comes out, it's for real.
It bothers me to hear all these sexual things that are happening to young kids. It bothers me to hear all these girls that, in my family and other families, that were harassed as kids growing up. I didn't know it was that bad when I grew up. I'm finding out it was. I'm also finding out it's worse now. So mothers and fathers, because it's not just the mothers have to worry about because they're single moms. I got children, I got girls, and I'm gonna go back to this thing, I'm gonna leave it alone. Watch who's in your village. Pay attention to who's in your village, who's around your children, who's touching your children, who's touching their lives. My advice to men is listen to your child. Hear what they're saying. It's the things that happen to them in school. It's the things they got to deal with when they deal with boys and deal with peer pressure and all the other stuff that's going on. It's just not about being a strong guy. It's just not being the guy, the breadwinner. The advice I give to you when it comes to your children, especially your girls, and more importantly your boys, you got to hear them. Hear what they're saying every day. I don't eavesdrop on my children when they're talking unless I hear something that just doesn't fit right. Unless I hear pain when they're talking. Most of the time, I'm not paying attention to what they're saying, because I'm not one of those guys that jump in and what were you talking? What were you doing? They get on the computer and they get all kinds, but I'm paying attention to signs. I'm listening to what they're saying, especially when they're talking to me. I'm listening. What are they saying? What's the spirit? So my advice is that you have to listen to these children. Hoorah.
Not Army, but love you. Okay, so, and then what's the other side of the tips?
I'm going to give a tip about daughters or children in relation to their father figure support system that might be a little bit older, right?
Yeah.
We're millennials. Our younger sister is Gen X, and you're a boomer.
I'm no boomer.
I don't know. What are you? I think you're a boomer.
Am I a boomer?
Pretty sure.
Boomer! Boom, right on, boomer!
I think that one thing that's really important is, from generation to generation, there's absolutely truths that reign through and through. Sometimes differences in approaches and differences in language, and I think just when we're having conversations, and that's again tip for us millennials and under, is just show grace and hear hear our parents and our, the older
Elders,
generations
yeah.
for what it is that they are, where their heart is and what
Yeah.
they're trying to say, because I think that that's something that we've, in our, again, our adult years and navigating, communicating as adults, like something that we've, had to maneuver through.
Yeah.
But I think making sure that we're going in with like the heart of hearing and not the heart of critiquing because you said a word this way, and like still being thoughtful in expressing, hey, like this word hurt my feelings because of X, Y, and Z, respectfully, sharing those and not holding on to that, but also looking at it from the lens of trying to hear what you're trying to say to us. Would be a tip that I would give.
Can I piggyback off that?
Of course.
I think I love that because I think it is so important to have a neutral space to where, to me, this is a safe space. And that's why we also, like, even in our bio, I don't know if you know this, but I know you watch the show so much, so you're like, I read that already.
I probably read it now. I listen.
Right. Well, most maybe haven't. But it's this idea that you want to allow room for people to learn, right? To speak, to be heard, and also leave grace and room for further learning, further knowledge after this very second, this very moment. We don't claim to be experts by any means in any of these areas that we're discussing. We all have difference of opinions that maybe don't even get fully across, because some of the things that we're touching in this episode, I mean, they could be their own episodes. And again, we're not professionals. Are we continuing to learn? Yes. Do we ask for your grace? Absolutely. Are these our personal stories? Absolutely. So you take it with a grain of salt. I always feel like what we talk about today, I'll probably learn something new about this topic tomorrow. One, because I'm learning from hearing your perspective. It makes me want to do more research. It makes me want to dive in. It makes me want to have an open heart and listen. And I feel like in some of these times that we're in, it's just like we have our ears shut off. Just because we have been hurt, we have been in situations where people weren't protecting us. They weren't there loving us or showing love through discipline or whatever it may be. From boomers to maybe, and then vice versa. Maybe we've said some hurtful things to the older generation or shut you guys off or turned our ears off because of that back and forth. So I do, and I'll say this now, is like one day I've always had this hope to be able to create literally another safe space outside of here to where we can bring those two entities together, differences of opinions, difference of backgrounds, identities, and be able to have real conversations that are safe. And obviously, if you're coming to that table or that space, we're all leading with love there, right? You're not even being invited, no shade, unless your ears are open. And so I just want that to always be what Sister Code is about. It's just like open hearts, open conversation, open dialogue, for everyone to have a voice and to speak and know that it's a safe space. So I think the more that each generation does that, even after us or before, the more that we can have open dialogue and be like, okay, I appreciate that's your experience. This is mine. We can both have difference in opinions.
And the thing I would add to that, thing I would tell you though is, as I said, listen, I would tell the children and the young, make sure you're talking.
Yeah.
Make sure that you're letting people that love you know what's going on with you. A lot of times the parent is hollering and screaming, and when it's all said and done, the child is clamming up, and it never gets out to what's going on with that child. And that child, because nobody hears them, they start acting out and doing stuff, and that's detrimental to them in the long run. But it's a fix short term. It's a way they're a lot of times they're just asking for help, and because nobody's listening, it's coming out in different ways, whether it be behavior, speech, oral, whatever. And so, as we're saying to the parent to listen, we're saying to the child, speak, talk, open up.
We were saying is be an active listener
Yes.
and show genuine interest in their lives. I think that would be kind of sum that up.
Good stuff.
And then, like you said, encourage and support their dreams and ambitions.
Right.
You know, can you speak to that just a little bit? Like,
Just a little bit, just short.
Yeah. Yeah. Supporting their dreams and ambitions.
The thing that I will say to everybody has to remember, every child is different. There's nowhere in the world I can program each child to be who God has called them to be. Not smart enough. That's the hardest part of being a parent is, how do I do that? Usually, I haven't. I'm
Done
still
it
young.
before. Yeah.
I'm still figuring out. That's why I feel sorry for you, girl, because you had some bad parenting along the way. You had some real bad parenting along the way. You had some kind of
Decent?
bad. She had kind of bad. Grace had decent. Y'all keep saying Grace got the favorite. She's the favorite. She gets away with all this.
She's the baby.
She just had the better parenting. That's all.
Freeness.
She had better parenting.
Yeah.
And now y'all look at Brian and say, oh my God, she got great parenting.
Yeah.
She got great parenting,
She's
boy.
got the
I'm
best-
telling you what,
best
boy.
you got. You had.
Best
Yeah.
I
Ever had.
Dog is good now.
Yeah. Right. Ready. Awesome. Well,
We like to end with a little challenge.
Uh-oh.
challenge.
Challenge to
And
them,
so-
right?
Crazy.
Yeah.
Praise the Lord.
Yeah.
We like to
Y'all
also
better
adopt
get on
the
it.
challenge. We
For
like
us
to
too,
adopt
for
the
us
challenge
too.
too.
And so the challenge is to reach out to that support system, whatever that
Yes.
looks like for you, and really find some time to connect. Find some time to try out. We've listed a whole bunch of things that you can try out.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
But just be intentional about it
Yes.
because you can go through life and allow life to kind of mold and push you along. But the smarter way is to look
Support.
for that support.
Yeah.
And don't always just feel like it's gonna come.
Yeah. And like you said, by looking for it, it's like understanding that you're not alone in this life because sometimes it can get really lonely. I think we do have seasons of feeling or I kind of feel like they're like wilderness seasons where you feel like, man, I'm just out here and I'm just life be life in. But I think even when that happens, having a few people that you can call on, that you can trust, and you said like depend on, you know, to just talk to even sometimes. It doesn't have to be like, you know, something grandiose, but just really having some people you can trust and you can look up to, like you said, depend on. So that's a challenge.
Yeah.
Link up with that support system or maybe work on finding those people.
Right.
Yeah. Wow.
Can I say one thing real quick?
Go ahead.
Yeah.
And listen to you guys, it dawned on me that, like you said, there are some who do not have that support system, and they've come of age. And I will say to you, those, it's not upon you to try to rekindle that support system from those like mothers and fathers and people estranged, I think is what they call it, people that's
Like supposed to be there, but
they're not. You'll be surprised how much their lives will change. That now you kind of turn the tables and you're reaching out. Because if they have not been good support systems to you, they probably haven't had good support systems.
right, cycle.
And if you can turn around and become a support system to them, both of y'all benefit. Now you become better because now you have somebody you can at least depend on. But more importantly, they become better. And you'll be surprised how it would change you as a person and change you as a life and take some of the weight off of you, because I guarantee you, if it's someone that's been around you for a while, whatever that is not, it's weighing on you. Whatever that relationship is not right now, it's weighing on you because it's not. It weighs on you when you see them, it weighs when you're around them, it weighs on you when you see somebody else and they have a good relationship with their mom or they have a good relationship with their father. It weighs on you. So if you can help them, now you help yourself.
Yeah.
Because now not a weight anymore.
Is there another way to look at it in the sense of letting go of something that may not be?
Sometimes you do have to let go. Sometimes, and usually it's a period of time. In other words, you're pressing at it so hard that you're making it hard for that person to relate to you because you're pressing so hard. Sometimes you're right. Sometimes you just gotta let it go. And pray that a situation will come around where, because it's nothing like, you guys know it, and with your mother working days and working nights, and not being around a lot of days, there's a lot of things that y'all were not able to build that I see y'all building now. Because you're able to now. You can adjust your schedule. As kids, you couldn't adjust your schedule. You had to get up in the morning, had to go to school, had to do some stuff, had to go to bed. She had to go to work.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of times you guys could not bond. And I tell you guys, I enjoy your bonding now, because I realized it was a weight that you guys were carrying, because that bond was not as close as you wanted it to be, as you saw other people having.
Okay.
And so, yeah, sometimes you got to back off and wait for the right time, but be looking for that time.
Yeah, have that hope.
Have that prayer, and we didn't talk as much about that prayer, because that prayer is not only a prayer between you and God. Prayer also goes with, if you're praying and that other person is praying, that puts y'all on the same mindset. So that also brings y'all together, because y'all end up praying for the same thing. And you're looking to say, well, God fix me. Next, you're fixed. Why? Because you guys are praying for this. You're in this. Whenever you get like minds, get on the same page, same wavelength, then you bond.
Yeah. Even if it's from a distance.
Then you remember that as spirits, there's no boundary. Because my spirit doesn't have a state boundary. It doesn't have a house boundary. It doesn't have a car boundary. When my spirit is praying towards God and your spirit is praying towards God, guess what? We are all in the same spot.
Like one accord.
And then before you know it, we done build a relationship.
Or let it go.
Or well, see, I don't.
Dad's like, no, keep that hope that open.
Go.
But what if something?
I mean, I do feel as though, like, if there is real hurt, if there is real, like, if there's danger,
right.
Danger now, that whole thing, but
that's a thing,
but it could be emotional danger.
Absolutely.
It might not
physical.
Only be it could be absolutely physical, but like.
Yep.
Sometimes it's emotional danger that
a lot of emotion.
that you might have to just step away from
afar
forever.
Yeah.
Well, we know what I'm saying. I don't believe in the
one
forever.
One road.
Black and white. I don't believe in the forever, but I do believe in timing.
Fair.
Okay.
I think some things are forever, though.
We agree, disagree.
I don't believe. Only thing is forever is my salvation is forever. I'm just gonna shout, woo, 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 woo. But anyway, but I the reason why I don't say forever is because sometimes people use that as an out for not trying.
Sure.
Fair. Yeah.
So yes, there is times where you would die before y'all get back together. But if you're still trying. I don't want to. When I say trying, that don't mean you're trying to call somebody. That means you're trying to run behind somebody. That means that you just maybe praying.
What if you're forgiving them too? Because I feel like that's trying.
You must forgive them.
Well, yeah.
You must forgive them. You don't forget it.
Yeah.
And you don't allow it to. You don't allow.
Another episode.
Yeah.
This was our first.
Yes.
They ain't gonna invite no more. Because they won't get out the house.
Ooh, child. We
This
did
is
some
really nice, though.
things today.
This is really nice.
Praise
Yeah,
the Lord.
it
God
was
is
Thank
good.
you,
God is
thank
good.
you.
He's
Yes.
a good God.
Thank
He's
you
a
for
good,
being
good
Appreciate
God.
it. I know that it
Yes.
wasn't, when we first asked, you were kind of like, no.
What am I gonna? What are we gonna
Well,
talk about?
and the reason why I say no is one of the reasons why you had to put the disclaimer in, because I am an opinionated person, and some of my opinions and some of my statements, I don't want to say not politically correct, but sometimes, and I'm glad you put that disclaimer in at the beginning of this, is because sometimes I don't see I see a big picture, but not maybe the biggest picture, because I do have 64 years, almost 64 years, of background that has not gotten me where you guys may already be when it comes to. I mean, there's certain things I look at, and we don't have to get into discuss, but there's certain things I look at as black and white that are gray and colored and
Colored's a strong word.
very strong
The
word. Very strong word.
I'm like the PR lady. Yeah.
So.
But yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah. So it's one of those things where, and like you said earlier, we all, I think you said it, we all are constantly growing.
Mm-hmm.
You guys, it has nothing really to do with me. It has to do with God. Have been called. And I'll look out there and say the same thing to you guys. Every last one of you guys have been called for a purpose. And the parent's job is to make sure when they leave the environment, you're able to do that purpose. Now, I expect to be here at least 40 more, maybe 50.
Years.
As long as I'm healthy, God. 50, maybe even 60. But if I die tomorrow, I know y'all are ready.
Ooh, make it a real, honey. Make it a real. Make it a real. Steve.
So my idea of a good Father's Day that God says, "Well done, my good and faithful servant." That's my idea of Father's Day. And I said I was gonna make it without crying, gal, and I ain't cried, y'all. Just so y'all know, I didn't cry.
Allergies.
Yeah. I don't see no tears.
Yeah.
It's a little wet, but you know,
Right.
the wind kind of blew and hit me.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, that's what I want. That's a Father's Day for me. And every year, if every year he says that, then I'm good.
Whew.
Whoa.
Guess what else is there to say
Yeah.
at that point? We
Well.
do have one thing that we say at the end,
Oh,
and we have some hand motions.
well, y'all do the motion. I'll be behind you.
Well, yeah, that probably
Alright.
makes sense. 'Cause
Yeah.
just a Jell's thing.
I know.
She loves it,
I
so we
heard
do it.
Y'all say it every time.
Yeah, because look at her smile.
But you make
Look
that
at her
statement
smile.
every time. You
Can I
remind
just
us
have
every
joy?
time.
You
Can I
have
just have
it.
joy
You
around
got
me?
it. You know, people say you got it. No, that's like the worst way to say it, isn't it? You got it. Let's do it. This is why I have love in your heart.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
Just around
right.
the country.
So,
They
Okay.
be tripping all the time.
They do.
Believe
You
me.
said send her on trips. It's your.
I'm being blessed.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Okay, ready?
all right. So, through the
Ups, the downs,
downs,
and the darkness.
our guiding light is
Is
love.
love.
The real sister code.
Ding. Thanks, Dad. Bye.
Bye bye.
See you guys.